Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Exploring Reskilling Opportunities for Immigrant Professions. My name is Sinai Gabrameddin, and I'll be your host today. I'm joined by my colleagues from WES Global and Baltimore Alliance for Careers and Health. I hope you're able to hear our presentation. If you're having trouble connecting, please click on the highlighted icon to connect by telephone or by using your computer. Today's webinar will be interactive. We invite you to access the chat feature to ask us questions and share your thoughts. We try to respond to as many questions as possible at the end of the webinar. The chat feature is located on the top right-hand corner of your screen. We'll also have a live poll question, and we're looking forward to seeing all of your responses. As we go through today's webinar, don't feel rushed to take notes. We will share a recording of today's webinar as well as the slides. After the event, we'd love to hear your feedback through our brief online survey. We use your feedback to help guide what information and materials we present in future webinars. So if there is anything you'd like more information about, please let us know. Before I introduce our presenters, a little bit about WES Global Talent Bridge and Immigrant. WES Global Talent Bridge is a program of world education services that is dedicated to helping immigrants fully utilize their talents and education in the United States and Canada. We join with institutional partners and community-based organizations to help skilled immigrants leverage their training and achieve their career and professional goals. We are also a founding member of Immigrant Coalition. Immigrant is a national coalition of nonprofit organizations in the U.S. dedicated to advancing the field of immigrant professional integration, of which WES Global and WES are a founding member. To learn more about Immigrant and to participate in the coalition's effort to create opportunities for skilled immigrants, visit Immigrant's website, immigrantproject.org. On the website, you could sign on to the campaign in support of immigrant professional integration principles, see the Immigrant Professional Integration Mapping Project, highlighting organizations doing skilled immigrant integration, and also download Immigrant's research report, Steps to Success, with an analysis of the barriers faced by college-educated immigrants. When you're on Immigrant's website, don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter, a great resource to receive regular updates on the field of skilled immigrant integration. Today, we are lucky to be joined by four wonderful presenters. Mary Vogel Lee, WES Global's Western Regional Program Director and a lead in WES Global's National Skills Initiative. Cecilia Connor, Employment Services Associate and a member of WES Global's National Reskilling Initiative. Emily Nigel, Senior Associate on the Employment Services Team and IT Sector Lead for the National Reskilling Initiative. Jenny McDermott, Program Manager for Apprenticeship with Baltimore Alliance for Careers and Health, and myself, a Program Coordinator at WES Global Talent Bridge. On today's webinar, we will cover how reskilling can be a critical component to reducing brain waste, how WES Global is undertaking a national reskilling initiative, and how Baltimore Alliance for Careers and Health is providing opportunities to immigrant professionals looking to build on their international education and experience. And at the end, we will respond to your questions. Before we dig into the topic of reskilling, let's start out by defining what we mean when we say skilled immigrants. For our purposes today, we use the term skilled immigrants to mean immigrants, refugees, and asylees with university education and or professional experience earned abroad, seeking to work in their profession or pursue further education to qualify for a professional career in the United States. According to the Migration Policy Institute, of the 7.6 million skilled immigrants in the U.S., nearly 2 million are affected by brain waste. MPI defines brain waste as the number of college-educated immigrant and native-born adults ages 25 and older who are either unemployed or have jobs that are significantly below their education and skill levels. This skill underutilization of immigrants results in a combined loss of more than $10 billion in federal, state, and local tax revenue. While skilled immigrants face many barriers to career re-entry, one of the key barriers identified in our research at Immigrant, as well as other research conducted on brain waste, is a lack of some kind of U.S. credential. One way to address this barrier is to invest in reskilling. In the Steps to Success study, we found that immigrants who had invested in additional U.S. education were more likely to be employed and successful than those who had only received education from abroad. The key word here being additional. This key finding does not discount the education that skilled immigrants earned abroad and the tremendous value that it holds. It highlights how a U.S. credential can help bridge any gaps that exist in their academic and professional backgrounds. Gaps can be anything from language to technical skills, or simply long gaps in education or experience that can make it difficult to re-enter the workforce. So now that we've talked about brain waste and how reskilling is a key component in helping skilled immigrants integrate into professional opportunities, I'd like to invite my colleague from WES Global to help us explore this topic further with an in-depth look at national reskilling initiatives. But before I pass it to Mary, let us do a quick poll. The polling question can be found on the right side of your screen, and the question is, where do you refer immigrants for reskilling opportunities? A, community colleges. B, four-year university continuing education department. C, workforce development agencies. D, online programs or courses. Or E, other. Be sure to submit your answer using the polling feature as opposed to typing your answer in the chat window. We've got a few more seconds. All right, let's have a look at the results, and this could take some time. And there are no wrong answers. All right, it looks like the majority of you refer your clients to community colleges. That's great. Well, the poll leads perfectly to our first presenter, Mary, from WES Global. Mary?
Thanks, Sinai. We are so happy to be here with you all today to share our work and to learn from the group. Sinai, will you just mute your phone? Thanks. I'm going to kick off our slides by giving you a bit of background on WES Global and then diving into why we launched a reskilling program and what we're hoping to achieve. So WES Global, as many of you might know, is a national nonprofit that since 2000 has specialized in helping highly skilled immigrants and refugees restart their professional careers in the U.S. We have a two-pronged program model. The first part is the direct services to our job seekers, giving them the tools and the resources that they need to successfully navigate the U.S. job search. And the second part is really built on partnerships with employers across the country that are looking to access global talent. Our work since day one has been founded on the belief that foreign-trained professionals that we work with, they already have the skills and experience necessary to contribute to the U.S. professional workforce. And we've been right. We've placed over 4,500 skilled immigrants across industries back into their professional career fields in the U.S. However, consistent with the research that Sinai was presenting, we also recognize that there is a segment of the job seekers that we serve that really do need that additional training in the U.S. to help them achieve that first job. This might be refugees or asylees that have the long employment gaps on their resumes due to the time it takes to resettle in the U.S. Or perhaps it's immigrants that were generalists in their home country and are looking to specialize in their field in the U.S. And for some, it might just be combating that employer bias and recognizing that the Made in America stamp that's referenced in that Steps to Success report can really validate their education and ease their pathway to an employment. So in late 2016, with the support of our corporate partner Accenture, UpGlow launched our reskilling program. And our hypothesis is by facilitating reskilling opportunities for our job seekers, we can upgrade their skill set and help them secure industry-recognized certifications and trainings for their sector. In the end, their resumes will be more competitive, and employers will interview and hire them at a higher rate. We're really early in our program right now, but we have 3 specific questions that are driving the development of the work that we do. The first is which trainings and certifications are really going to make the difference in achieving professional employment. We all know that if you're in this workforce development space, that vocational training and certifications, they can be costly. So as an organization, we've decided we have a responsibility to understand for our specific population which trainings and certifications actually make a difference. And with this data-based knowledge, we will be able to more effectively advise our job seekers in need of reskilling and then begin to create resources, such as reskilling guides based on specific professional backgrounds. The second question that's guiding our work is who will be our training partners? So consistent with the fact that certifications make a difference, we all know that not all training providers are created equal. So we are on the mission right now to find the best-in-class training providers, those that are responsive to the needs of the population that we serve, and also those that are willing to partner with us around scholarships and discounts for our job seekers. Now, the final question that's driving our work is how will we create a sustainable model? In the first year, we decided to start small, and we've been using free partnerships and scholarship funds in order to test and evaluate the training opportunities in a few specific industries: engineering, technology, and advanced manufacturing. My team will say more about this piece, but we anticipate that the data and outcomes will enable us to strategically approach funders, major donors, and even our recipients to support this work moving forward. I'm going to hand off to my colleagues now, Cecilia and Emily, who are going to share with you how we are going about collecting the data to learn from this work, and then Emily is going to share some early outcomes and lessons learned. So Sanai, thanks for moving it forward. Cecilia, I'm going to hand off to you.
Thank you, Mary. Data tracking is critical to the success of our work. Our job coaches will use the data we collect to best advise job seekers in the future regarding optimal credentialing courses that lead to improved employment outcomes. They will also have the data to create reskilling guides and potentially career pathway flow charts by profession. Additionally, our global staff will be able to pull reports of the number of job seekers who secure a job as a result of a reskilling program to present to major donors and alumni who want to pay forward. To support collecting, managing, and evaluating data related to the reskilling work, we developed a new system in Salesforce called Vocational Training Object. We anticipate this system will set us up to quickly expand the tracking and evaluation of our reskilling work during the course of the year, and equip us to make educated decisions regarding optimal training opportunities and associated career pathways. More specifically, we've been using this system to track training provider partners, such as Udacity and Coursera. Keeping a record of the training providers used by the job seeker allows us to identify the best credentialing course that lead to placement. We're also tracking training category, which refers to the industry the course is in, such as IT, engineering, and advanced manufacturing. Training topic, which refers to the main subject of the course. For example, if the category is engineering, the training topic could be AutoCAD, quality control, or maintenance. Training topics allows us to have the big picture regarding training areas that make a difference for our job seekers to obtain employment. We're tracking training name, which is the specific name assigned to the course by the training provider. Job coaches will use this field to support advising job seekers on specific course titles within various training provider offerings. We are tracking course modality to understand if our population performs better in person, online, or in bootcamp trainings. Hours per week job seekers commit to this training. Coaches will keep this into consideration when advising job seekers. If a job seeker has a very demanding survival job, a course that requires 20 or 30 hours a week might not be the best option, for example. We are tracking costs and funders. If course was funded by the job seeker itself, by a specific funder such as Accenture, or if the course was free. A start and projected end date. Is this a 4-day bootcamp? Is this a 6-month course? Completion date, certification earned by the job seeker, and finally, we're also able to track associated placement results for job seekers completing vocational training. Because at the end of the day, none of the data matters unless we know how this initiative is helping our job seekers improve their placement outcome. Okay, now I'm going to hand off to my colleague, Emily.
Great. Thanks so much, Cecilia and Mary. So I am really excited to be able to share with you some of our early successes and lessons learned. And as we mentioned, you know, we're kind of in the beginning of this program. So we're also really looking forward to continuing to learn as our program moves forward. And so as Mary mentioned, you know, through our reskilling program, we have had a couple of goals, and one of them was to use scholarship money that we received through a grant through Accenture. And through that grant so far, we have been able to award full tuition scholarships to 39 of our job seekers from a competitive pool of 70 candidates. And we still have some remaining funds, so we are excited to allocate those out as our year continues and to continue to fund a few more folks as we push this initiative forward. In addition to that, we have had 100 job seekers complete training, and those are through referrals that we have been making via our coaching team on an ongoing basis. So those include referrals to Coursera, with whom we have a free partnership for our refugee, asylee, and SIV job seekers, and then referrals to other community training partners, like what we talked about in the poll. So that includes community colleges, other workforce development agencies, and ways which our job seekers can train for free through programs that already exist. 36 of our job seekers have gotten placed after completing training in 2017. So we are just about halfway through the year, and we are looking forward to seeing that number continue to rise. And we have also developed 6 new partnerships. So we really consider partnerships to be a key component in creating a successful program. And the training field right now is really hot. We see that a lot of partners are very eager to engage with us and want to access our learners. And we are using that interest to really be strategic in who we choose to work with. And then again, to echo what Mary and Cecilia were already saying, you know, to really track, like, what are these successful programs and how are we seeing these training completions help convert our job seekers into placement into full-time employment. So we have secured, again, 6 new partners, and those range from community-based training providers to corporate foundation money, to even an online assessment tool that's helping us identify skill gaps for our job seekers to better make referrals into training programs. And so we have secured over $16,000 in free or discounted training opportunities through this work, and that's across 3 new training provider partners, and it's impacted 12 job seekers. And we have also launched a midternship program with BACH, which is a big cloud computing company on the peninsula, and that program resulted in training on the job for one of our job seekers while she was getting full-time work experience, and also resulted in placement revenue for Upwardly Global. So we're seeing a lot of really exciting advancements in the first few months of getting this program off the ground. So Sanai, if you could go to the next slide. Great. So now I'm excited to share kind of some of our lessons learned and what we are keeping an eye out for as we continue to get this program off the ground. So far we have seen pretty similar outcomes for on-site versus online training in terms of placement. So we are seeing slightly more of a swing towards placements resulting from online training, which we think may be attributed towards the easy accessibility of short and engaging courses like through our partner Coursera that give job seekers a boost in confidence and help to fill a gap on a resume. But again, we're still in the beginning stages of getting our job seekers into online in-person training programs and also completing those. So we are looking forward to getting deeper insights into what course modality is going to be the most effective for the population that we serve. We're also seeing that certifications have an impact. So certifications for IT job seekers like CCNA, those are really having a noticeable impact on placement outcomes, and we have actually prioritized our own scholarship funding to help us get critical mass in certificate-based training so we can get more insight into, how this might affect a job seeker's ability to get a job. We've also seen training topics that are trending. So our most popular training enrollments so far and applications for funding have consistently been for back-end development, project management, data analytics, and data science, and quite a few of our job seekers who have been awarded scholarships or training in those fields. And so we are, again, looking forward to, seeing what we can learn from folks who complete those trainings. We've also learned that in this work, coaching is critical. So, maintaining close and consistent relationships between upflow coaches and the job seekers who are in training is really helping our job seekers to, first of all, identify the right track for them and where they should be pursuing training, but it's also helping them to troubleshoot their way through training, which might be in unfamiliar territory, and then marketing those new skills on their resume. And so really what we anticipate to continue to learn, just to kind of sum everything up and are interested in understanding are, again, like what trainings work and what structure is really going to support our job seekers and create successful outcomes, whether that be, online or in-person training, if that, provides a support network for them, the level of coaching. And then, as Cecilia said, our data tracking is also going to be critical because our knowledge will only be as good as the data that we collect as we continue to work on this program. And again, we're new to this work and we are learning a lot and know that we have a lot more to learn. So we are excited to continue to share, what we've learned and we're excited to have been a part of this webinar and share what we've learned so far. So thank you so much, and Sanai, I'll hand it back off to you.
Thank you, Emily. That was very insightful. I really appreciate all of you for the further information that you've shared with us. If any of you have questions for Mary, Cecilia, or Emily, feel free to type them in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll try to respond to as many questions as possible at the end of the webinar. Let us now hear from Janie from the Baltimore Alliance for Careers and Health about an innovative new program serving the skilled immigrant population in Maryland. Janie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Janie McDermott, and I am the Program Manager for Apprenticeships with the Baltimore Alliance for Careers and Healthcare. A little bit about BACH for anyone who isn't familiar. We are a nonprofit dedicated to eliminating the critical shortage of qualified healthcare workers in the Baltimore area. We are a workforce intermediary, which means we work closely with a coalition of area hospitals, long-term care providers, as well as community partners and local and state level government. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about our new pilot apprenticeship program for skilled immigrants, which all began about a year ago, sparked by the Maryland Department of Labor Licensing and Regulation. In Baltimore City, 41.4% of immigrants have a bachelor's degree or higher. However, this is not reflected in their wages, which are significantly lower than the general population. 22.3% of Baltimore's immigrants live below 100% of the poverty level, and 40.2% live at or below 199% of the poverty level. So our state labor department really recognized this gap, and we're seeking sort of creative solutions to tackle it. And they approached BACH about the possibility of developing apprenticeships in healthcare for skilled immigrants, particularly those who have prior experience in healthcare in their home countries. So from there, we convened a group of employers who agreed to work with BACH to establish these programs, and we were eventually awarded funding through the Department of Labor's Apprenticeship USA grant. So we receive this money, it's awarded to our State Department of Labor and then flows through to us, as well as to our partners. So what we've done so far is really work with Baltimore area hospitals to identify middle skill occupations with low retention rates and a large number of vacancies. From there, working closely with the hospitals, we went through the process of developing what we call work process schedules. So this is sort of an outline of all of the functions necessary to be successful in a particular occupation. Then we determined the related instruction courses, and then from there we became a registered apprenticeship program with the Maryland State Apprenticeship Council. Most states go directly to the federal government to get their apprenticeships approved. Maryland is a little different. We actually have our own apprenticeship council, so the process is a little different. And also BACH and not the employer is the sponsor of the apprenticeship. So what this means is once our programs are approved by the State Apprenticeship Council for a particular occupation, any hospital in our coalition is able to adopt that apprenticeship for that particular role without needing to go through the additional state approval process. Our first cohort, which is just getting started, we're in the application season right now, is with the Johns Hopkins Hospital, and that's for environmental care supervisors. So it's a little different than what you think of traditionally as a healthcare role. It's actually more of a management role. So before the apprenticeship even begins, participants go through a contextualized English as a second language class, which is focused on job readiness and also is specifically focused on the culture of healthcare in the United States. They also go through a 30-hour essential skills course. So essential skills, which some people call soft skills, that's a class that covers things like interview skills, building a resume, conflict management, really all the skills you need to be successful in any job. And our curriculum is actually developed by our local employers, spelling out exactly the skills that they identify people really need coming through the doors. So we're also excited that all participants will have access to a customized portal which is created by WES Global. And this is an incredible resource for skilled immigrants that really guides them through the culture of finding a job in the U.S. and also includes a resource bank with local social services, scholarship opportunities, particular career maps within healthcare. So it's really just a one-stop shop for everything folks would need. And these resources can be accessed independently, but they're also being integrated into the classroom in our ESL class. We also have a full-time career coach who will meet regularly with the participants as well as their managers to work through any challenges they're facing on the job. So once the apprenticeship actually begins, participants will train on the job with current supervisors while also taking coursework provided by the Community College of Baltimore County on bloodborne pathogens, disease control, as well as management courses such as conflict resolution, business writing, and communication. Apprentices are full-time paid employees with benefits during the training period, and earnings increase as they gain more skills. Once they complete this training, they're also guaranteed a job in what they train for. So unlike some other training programs or, degrees, maybe someone goes through this program, maybe they pay a lot of money to go through this program, but they're not guaranteed a job at the end. So one of the huge benefits of apprenticeship is that is a guarantee. I'd also like to point out that all of our programs are competency-based. So traditionally, apprenticeships have been time-based. Typically, you complete 2,000 hours of on-the-job training, and once you complete that, you receive your Journey Workers License and you are credentialed in that particular occupation. For us, we decided to go with a competency-based model because we know adult learners, particularly foreign-trained immigrants, they already have so many of these skills and experience in the workplace that they've developed in their previous professional roles. So with a competency-based program, they're able to really take advantage of this prior learning experience and demonstrate competency more quickly, which also means they earn a higher wage more quickly. And Sinai, you can actually go to the next slide, please. So, next slide. Okay. So you can see here, these are our goals for the first year. It is a pilot, so the numbers are a little smaller, but what we're finding is that it really takes a lot of work on the front end, working very closely with our employers to develop these programs. So they're not just agreeing to hire a participant, they're really agreeing to take them through this up to possibly even 2-year-long training program. So it takes a lot of work on their end. So we're hoping to see 50 skilled immigrants enter essential skills and ESL classes, and we're expecting about half of those will be able to reskill through apprenticeship. We also are committed, of course, not everyone will be accepted into apprenticeship, but we have a lot of other training opportunities with BACH. So we're committed to having those folks working with our career coach and really developing an individualized plan for success for them. We're also hoping to engage 10 employers in the process. Right now, we're continuing to work. We have a program that has been approved so far, and we're working with a few other hospitals in the area to develop apprenticeships in roles like surgical technologist and licensed practical nursing. So we're hoping to continue to pop these programs up and really have this as a reskilling opportunity for immigrants in the Baltimore area. Yes, thank you, Sinai. So far, we have had 30 foreign-trained immigrants begin the process of applying for our first cohort. And we found that most of these folks have healthcare backgrounds in their home countries in all different kinds of roles. Some are even physicians, some nursing assistants, some EMTs. And what we've been hearing from a lot of folks is that some have even been applying to jobs at the hospitals and they've been told they're overqualified. Something particular about healthcare, it's a very heavily regulated industry, and re-credentialing and relicensing is very time intensive, it's very costly. So, for example, the woman she's from Afghanistan, she was a physician. It takes a long time to become a physician in the United States, but any lower role, she's being told she's overqualified. So we're really hoping in these programs to really serve as the gap for those people who are so eager to get back in the hospitals, and have so many great skills, but just don't have the pathway to get there. So I will turn it back to Sinai.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Janie. Sounds like such a promising program, and I look forward to learning more about it. As we near the conclusion of our webinar, I wanted to respond to some of the questions from our participants. So here are some of the questions we've received so far. Let's start with Upglow. So I got a question. What are the biggest obstacles faced in launching the reskilling program?
Thanks, Sinai. I'll take that one. This is Mary. So one of our biggest early lessons, and Emily touched on this when we launched this reskilling program, is that this whole reskilling area can be a monster. I mean, there are a million different training providers out there, and our job seekers represent a wide range of professional backgrounds. So we had to make some tough decisions to approach this work with a lot of strategy and structure. And as an organization, we became really intentional about starting small so that we could create critical mass, resulting in meaningful data to inform the decisions we're making in the future. So for instance, we decided to focus our scholarship money on technology and engineering, and within these categories, we're working to create opportunities within a handful of different training topics that we know based on market data are in high demand. So like the PMP, the CCNA, data science and analytics, and for engineering, AutoCAD and Revit. So I think kind of one of the biggest lessons we learned is to create structure, to design a program that's manageable and meaningful, and then allow it to grow from there.
Thank you, Mary. That was very helpful. This is a question for Janie. How did your organization establish a relationship with the Maryland Department of Labor Licensing and Regulation when you started the apprenticeship program, or the process to an apprenticeship program?
So we had been funded by the Maryland Department of Labor Licensing and Regulation, which we call DOLLAR for short, for another project. So they'd work with us on a grant called EARN, which is really employer-focused career training. So we saw so much success in that program that they actually approached us hoping to start this pilot, particularly because of our employer connections. So our board is made up entirely of employers from the area, as well as the local community colleges, the city school system, and a few local foundations. So we're really well positioned because of these relationships, and I think that our state labor department was aware of that.
That's actually very helpful, and it kind of leads to a similar kind of question, and this is for both of you, both for Upwardly Global and BACH. You've mentioned that it's very important was very important for BACH to have the relationship in the community with different stakeholders in order to start this program. So for those who don't necessarily have programs like yours, how could they go about creating these relationships and building a lasting relationship with stakeholders so that they can apply for or become an apprenticeship program or have reskilling initiatives in their community?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we actually partner with the International Rescue Committee, the local chapter in Baltimore, and they are recruiting, they're screening. So predominantly we're focusing on refugees right now, just because that's who they already have connections to. It's still open to other immigrants, but just because we're working with the IRC, that's sort of who we're seeing initially. We're also partnering with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant and Multicultural Affairs, and they already have those relationships. So they have been really great about working with us on outreach and really getting the word out to all of the direct service providers who work with immigrants in the community. And then from there, folks get referred back to the IRC.
Thank you, Janie. Anyone from Upwardly Global have wisdom to share?
I think, Sanai, one thing that we've learned in terms of building relationships with training providers is to really understand the value that you as an organization provide by giving the training providers access to these learners or students, and as we call them, job seekers. And there are nearly 2 million skilled immigrants and refugees that have the legal right to work but are unemployed or severely underemployed in the U.S. So that means there is a huge demographic that a portion of them are in need of reskilling opportunities. So the fact that you're working with this group and the training providers want to access them, it behooves them to build a relationship with you. So I would encourage people to be ready with the data, with the numbers and the types of people they serve, the industries they represent. So when you sit down with a potential partner, you're prepared to kind of talk about the pipeline that you'd be able to supply them. The vast majority of training providers, are earning their revenue through their students and or based on the number of people that are completing their trainings. So you're an ideal partner for them.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Mary. Since, Janie, you mentioned that you're working closely with the refugee population in Baltimore. This is a very specific question, but I figured you might have a quick response. One of our participants asked if refugees can keep their RCA funding while going through the apprenticeship program as opposed to attending a job readiness class.
I actually don't know the answer to this question, and I don't think that's something we've come across because we're primarily serving folks who've been here for a long time. Not a long time, but typically who are already off of that funding. But that's a good question, and to be honest, I don't know the answer.
Okay, thank you. Maybe someone from the joining us as a participant can give us some feedback or help us respond to that. This is a question for UpGlow. I've gotten a few questions about assessment. But I kind of wanted to broaden it a bit, and I'd really appreciate if you do speak to assessment. There's a concern that a large number of people have a diverse group of people that they're serving, and so how do you establish an assessment that kind of fits everybody and everyone's background? But I would really appreciate if you could also begin or start responding to that question by telling us some of the biggest obstacles you had faced in launching the Reskilling program.
Sure, Sinai, happy to tackle those questions. So, I think the two questions that you just posed do align well because, one of the biggest obstacles, as I was saying earlier, is just the diversity of the job seekers that we serve, and that they come from all different industries, and then the fact that there are millions of training providers out there, so trying to assess which are the best ones for us to use. That's what we're doing this year. We're really learning, and we're using data that Ceci reviewed to be able to inform our decisions and how we guide people in the future. And the key factor that we're going to choose to decide which training providers to use in the future are based on our job seekers that completed the vocational training or earned a short-term certification, what percentage of them are getting employed? Because that's the end goal. So that's the data we're going to use to inform our work and to create the career pathways and the resourcing guides. So all of that is yet to come. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer yet for that piece. The second part of the question is about assessments. We're doing this a few different ways. So we do English assessment at intake into our program. And just to make sure that the job seekers have an appropriate level of English so that they can be successful in their job search and in employment. And depending on their score, we can refer them to a variety of different ESL-related resources. We also do kind of the old grassroots way of skill assessment because we have our coaches that specialize by industry. So because the coaches really focus on one industry, they've developed a level of knowledge and are able to pull from Upwardly Global's institutional knowledge about what are the skills that are needed to be successful in that field. And they can work with their job seeker to revise their resume, pull out their accomplishments, make sure they're listing the skills that are relevant to the industry. If they're identifying their key skills that they're missing, say AutoCAD, Revit, specific IT certifications, that's when the coach will work with them strategically to guide them to training opportunities. The other tool that we're using that Emily referenced is a tool called Virgil, and this is relatively new to the market. We've been working with it for about a year now, specifically with our technology job seekers, where it's an opportunity for a job seeker to take an assessment based on a specific position. So be it a project manager or whatever the position might be, and they take the assessment in 90 seconds. And at the end of the assessment, they'll be told what are their skill gaps, what are the training providers that can help fill those skill gaps, or if they did well on the assessment, what are the open jobs that they should be applying to. So our coaches are going to be using that assessment tool in conjunction with their coaching and to support the reskilling program as it relates to training referrals.
That's very helpful, actually. And there's a few follow-up questions maybe you could respond to that some folks had raised earlier and ones that they've raised now. It kind of speaks to one being language proficiency. So when you're doing your assessment, are you finding that if their English proficiency is low, you guide them to take ESL courses that could increase their proficiency? And then, and are you doing the training yourselves, or are you referring your clients to trainings outside of UPGLO?
So the answer to that is both. Upwardly Global relatively recently launched our English program, also in result to that Steps to Success report. If you guys haven't read it, I highly encourage it. I'm sure Sanai will send it out with the presentation after. It's got some really good data, both around vocational training and English and how it affects skilled immigrants' outcomes as it relates to employment. So we do the English assessment through a company that we're partnered with called English First, And depending on their score, job seekers will either be referred to external English resources. They'll have the opportunity to access really intensive online English curriculum through this English First company, or they'll be offered internal ESL courses with Upwardly Global by way of, again, we have some pretty great online English courses, and then we launched an intensive English language coaching program where job seekers are matched one-on-one by industry with a cohort of volunteers that specialize in kind of ESL conversation practice. So we are using all resources that we have and also using what's available in the field to support our job seekers in this space.
Perfect. Thank you, Mary. And to the earlier question about RCA funding, talk about a very interactive webinar. I really appreciate the person who gave us a response. They said if you're attending apprenticeship programs, you are allowed to use your RCA funding. That's very helpful. I have one other question for Janie, and the question is, you've talked about how that you've identified middle skill occupations in hospitals that are needed, or skill gaps that exist within hospital systems. Besides the environmental care supervisors and surgical technologists, have you identified any other occupations that require training? And if so, have you identified for future? And if so, how do you intend to begin those?
Yes, so there are several other occupations that we've talked about with the hospitals. Of course, this whole process is really driven by the employer. There are other occupations that we know across the country maybe have been turned into apprenticeships, but it really depends locally on the demand in the particular institution. So some other ones we've talked about are central sterile technician, surgical technologist. We have talked about, I mentioned licensed practical nursing, which is an interesting one because we're talking about actually a bridge from geriatric nursing assistant into an LPN. And for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with what a GNA is, it's already a very, about a third of GNAs in the U.S. are immigrants. So it's really an occupation that is in healthcare. They are a lot of immigrants who come from healthcare. They end up in this lower wage role. And this would really help them bridge to that next jump. So a conversation we've had with a lot of our employers is, well, a lot of people in your own workforce are underemployed immigrants. So what can we do to also lift those people up at the same time? So that is what we're working on right now, but I'm sure that there will be more that come up in the future.
That's perfect. Thank you, Janie. And this is a question for both UpGlow and BACH. For UpGlow, could you elaborate a bit about how you administer scholarships and how do you decide who gets a scholarship, who doesn't? And then for BACH, when you enroll clients, how do you choose who to enroll? Let's start with UpGlow.
Hi, Sinai, this is Mary. Sorry, I was trying to hand it off to my colleague, Emily, but it didn't seem to be working. So, yeah, that's a great question around the scholarship process. I think that one thing that we found that's really important is you have to create a comprehensive application system because it's important for us to identify like the level of motivation and commitment and accountability, because the scholarships are going to be at no cost to the job seeker. So we really wanted to ensure that with our Upwardly Global coaches' support, that the job seekers were able to identify short-term trainings and certifications that led to an employment and were intentional about choosing those that aligned with their survival job schedule or their family schedule, so that they set themselves up for success. And as Emily mentioned earlier, our coaches are now, for those job seekers that receive the scholarships, still working with them because we want to make sure that they successfully complete the training and then support them in taking whatever certification test follows.
And for you, Janie, how do you decide who to enroll in your program?
So we begin with CASAS testing, and we require an advanced level of English, and I see that that's another question that I saw in the comments. So to answer that as well, we do require an advanced level, at least for this first cohort, because a big part of the role is communication skills, and we want somebody who's going to be able to be successful in that role. Folks who don't meet that benchmark, we refer them to other ESL programs in the city. From there, people who are accepted go into our ESL and essential skill classes, and from there, actually, they apply to the job with Hopkins, and Hopkins chooses from that group who will be accepted into the apprenticeship program. So we at BACH, we do not choose the participants. The employers do that, like they would with any other job, but we facilitate and we have application sessions, and we incorporate that process into our ESL.
All right, perfect. So one last question. It's around online training. And so a few people have asked, compared to other types of certification, do you find that it's equivalent or equal to to have an online certification or training? How do employers perceive it? Is it accepted as widely as a certification that's achieved through a community college or somewhere else? And as you guys saw earlier, when we did our poll, a majority of people are referring their clients to community colleges. So can online courses be an alternative to community college, or do they go hand in hand, and do employers accept them as they would other training programs?
This is Emily from Upload. I can try and tackle that. So I think we're really still learning in this space, and I think this is a place where it's really important to actively engage with your employer partners as well. So, for example, we have referred quite a few job seekers to Udacity nano degrees, which are anywhere from 3 to 6 months long training programs in a variety of different technical fields. And we've seen mixed success with that. The first cohort that we did of that, which was back in 2015, we had about half of the job seekers in that cohort find positions, with a mix of some of them being roles in the field that they studied and some of them being other IT roles. As I said, this year with our Coursera referrals, we are seeing a lot of job seekers who have been using that platform and have been finding jobs, but we don't yet know the direct correlation with the employers of whether or not that training was, had a direct impact on their decision to hire the job seeker. I think it can be really helpful to do online training if your client is in a remote location. Online just makes it so much more accessible. But at the same time, we've seen other barriers, like if English can be a struggle for your job seeker and they're doing an online training where maybe they don't have the same level of support from an in-person instructor, or, other classmates who can provide support, then that might be tough. So, we've seen pros and cons, and we are, really looking forward to learning more and getting some specific data points around what works best in terms of online training providers.
Perfect. If organizations want to refer their clients, or if clients want to sign up to your reskilling initiative, the program, where would be the best place to do that? Or is it only done in the West Coast? I'm assuming it's a program.
So it's a national program, and if you have job seekers that you're working with who you think might be a fit for Upwardly Global, you can have them apply for our program through our website. So they would go through our general onboarding and training process first, and then once they completed our core online training program, they would get paired with a coach in their industry and could become eligible for these opportunities.
And Sanai, I'll just add to that, we are serving job seekers all across the country, so anybody is welcome to go to our website and apply online. We're also partnering, as Janie demonstrated with her current program, partnering with CBOs all across the country that are interested in accessing our online curriculum specifically for their clients. So if you're interested in that opportunity as well, feel free to reach out to me and I can introduce you to my colleague, Allie, who's managing our program, our partnership program.
All right, perfect. Thank you again for Mary, Cecilia, Emily, and Janie. That was very helpful. So we're nearing the end of our webinar, and I really do want to thank all of you for participating and all of you for sharing your knowledge. The information you've shared has been tremendously helpful, and I have been getting a lot of positive feedback from the audience. People are most appreciative for all that you have shared with us. I would like to also thank my colleague, Anthony Castro, for his support and assistance throughout today's webinar. He's been in the background helping us with all technical issues and also forwarding the questions. So thank you very much, Anthony. As I had mentioned in the beginning, you will get a recording of today's session as well as a copy of the slides, as we really appreciate your interest and participation. We have to finish up today, but we'd like to continue engaging with you, so please reach out to us. We have our emails on the slide, so if you have any questions or if you want to reach out to us and engage and learn more about our programs, please do so freely on the email, using the emails that are on the screen. Finally, we want to extend our thanks to all of you for participating today. As you leave the webinar, a survey will pop up in another window. Please remember to complete that survey. Your feedback will help us improve our webinars. Thank you again, and we hope you will join us next time.